Alright, Shalom, Shalom, Israel. I'm back at you with another lesson through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. I like to say Salakia because it's been a while and I haven't been on my due diligence, making sure I'm sending to the flock. But without further ado, this lesson was kind of prompted by a conversation I was having with the Akim last night. And in the midst of the conversation, it came up as far as not trusting people, to teach, not trusting men to teach you, right? And to a degree, I felt like the brother was saying something that was valid, but then also, I had to acknowledge, like, the Lord set certain men up to teach us, so we can't really just go off on our own understanding, right? The Lord already taught us, don't go and lean on our own understanding, because the heart or the mind is deceitful above all things, right? Very wicked, no man can understand it, right? But without further ado, let's get into this thing, right? So I'm gonna go to, let me start off with this, right? Go to Salakia. We'll go to Psalms chapter 40, verse 4. It says, "Blessed is that man that maketh Yahweh by Shem Yahushai his trust, and respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies." Right? So it's a blessing to trust in the Lord, right? It's a blessing to not turn to those that's accustomed to lying, those that continually, for the sake of this lesson, continually teach lies, right? Those that teach false doctrines, those that are essentially false prophets, right? It's a blessing not to fall into those hands, right? Yahushua even warned us, right? Matthew 7, right? I'm going to start at 15. It says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves," right? So you got people that come in disguise. They come as quote-unquote men of the Lord, or quote-unquote pastors, or quote-unquote reverends and deacons and whatever other titles, bishops and stuff, whatever titles they want to put on it, to make it seem like they come, sincerely to do the work of the Lord, to magnify the ministry, right? But truthfully, all they come in to do is, feed their own bellies, right? Line their pockets with money, right? Seek vain glory, right? Those Yahushua told us to be aware of, right? Beware of those men, right? It says, "Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes or thorns or Salakia? Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit." So you're going to know exactly who they are by the things that they produce. If they're in a congregation and this congregation is always, the topic of discussion, they're the leader of this congregation, and this congregation always has, strifes and contentions, gossip and revelings. They're always the center of drama. There's something always messy happening, right? That'll let you know, hey, that's a congregation I don't need to deal with, because they only bring forth evil fruits. They bring forth, things contrary to the fruits of the Spirit, right? Verse 18, it says, "A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth forth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire." Right? So all of these, false teachers, these, false prophets, these pastors, you got these T.D. Jakes, these Pastor Pridgeons, and so forth, Joel Osteen, right? All of them, they're going to be cast down. They're going to be hewn down eventually, right? Because they don't bring forth good works, right? Or good fruits, rather, right? Only our people is so accustomed to seeing, material things as a standard of success, right? T.D. Jakes got him a private jet, a Bentley, and a mansion with 12 cars in the driveway, and they see that as, oh, the Lord is dealing with him, the Lord is blessing him. No, that's Satan. Satan gives blessings too. Satan tempted Yahushua with all the kingdoms of the earth. So all you got to do is worship me, and I'm gonna bless you with everything that it was given to me to bless you with, right? So Satan can bless you too, right? But our people are so accustomed to seeing that success is based off of monetary gain. Success is based off of materialistic uh, abundance, right? But that's not the case. It says, uh, every tree that bringeth forth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them, right? And these good fruits, you're gonna see the men that's actually the men of the Lord. They out laboring, they out making sure, they're feeding the flock, right? Brothers kinda had to get on me recently because I've been, on a hiatus from making videos, right? Not feeding the flock, right? And that was kind of the topic of discussion last night. And it came up where, you know, some brothers would rather just read for themselves so they ain't being led astray. But brothers also got to remember, the Lord set up certain men to teach you. You're not just going to get the understanding through yourself. Of course, the Lord can reveal certain things unto you. And that's actually the spirit, because I was watching a brother Zion from GMS. He actually was going into that earlier. Like, the Lord will reveal certain things unto certain men. It's okay to, acknowledge the fact that you thought you knew something and the Lord revealed it unto you later down the line. So now you got to, clean up the understanding that you thought you had and get the proper understanding, right? But majority of the time, the Lord is gonna give you certain men to teach you those things, right? Even on a carnal base level, right? If we all just popped out the womb and didn't, rely on men and women that's on this earth before us that know how to do certain things like eat, walk, crawl, talk, right? We wouldn't be able to grow in this thing because we would have nothing. The experience that we would get would be our only teachers, but it's a saying in the world where the wise person is going to learn from other people's mistakes, right? So if these people have been around long enough to, go through these trials or, go through these doctrines and break down this understanding and, see this for what it really is or get the revelation of what this is, right? Then you're supposed to, the scriptures even tell us that we're supposed to, cleave unto those men, right? But we don't want to just take everything at face value. We can't just blindly trust those people and, become victims of the blind leading the blind, right? As a matter of fact, let's go to Acts chapter 17 and verse, I'm going to start at 11, right? It says, these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, and that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so, right? So the church of Berea, those in Berea, they were more noble than those in Thessalonica because they went out their way to, okay, we received the word, this is what was told unto us, this is the gospel that was preached unto us. Now we're going to take it upon ourselves to go in the scriptures and see for ourselves if the things that were told unto us are actually there. We're going to see, okay, well, they broke this down this way. I'm going to go back to, all these precepts and I'm going to go over these precepts myself. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I understand this. They gave me this doctrine. Well, now I'm going to go and see if there's any holes in that doctrine that contradict what, I know the Lord showed me to be true, right? And if that's the understanding that the Lord gave you, pray to the Lord and, make sure your understanding is enough, right? Ask the Lord for a clear and concise understanding on, whatever the doctrine is, or, also pray to the Lord to ask that, the men that are teaching you, the men that are, you're walking with, those that are set up to guide you, pray that they not be led astray. Pray that they do it out of sincerity. Pray that, they have your best interest and your salvation in mind when they're teaching you these things instead of just filthy lucre's sake or vainglory, right? So we got to be able to be willing to search the scriptures to see those things for ourselves, right? We're the ones that's supposed to be studying to show ourselves approved. Nobody's going to study for us, right? We understand, blesses he that readeth, right? But we also got to understand that even though we read things, we may not comprehend them the first time, the second time, the third time. It have been plenty of times where I done read things and I didn't know what was going on until somebody actually sat down and showed me what was really going on, right? So I'm going to go to Salakia. I'm going to go to Sirach chapter 4, right, in verse 27, right? It says, make not thyself an underling to a foolish man, neither accept the persons of the mighty, right? So you don't want to be taught by somebody that's a fool. You don't want to be up under somebody that they can't, clearly that they're not walking the upright ways if they're a fool, right? They're not walking after the ways of the Lord. They profess a knowledge that they don't really have. Every time they say something to you, you go back to check the facts. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's not what they said it was, right? Why would you put yourself in a position to follow after those men just because they have some type of status, right? Just because they have a name established from themselves based off of old works, right? It says verse 28, it says, strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee, right? So as long as you striving for the truth, as long as your goal and your mission statement is to get to the truth, right? Serve the Lord in truth and sincerity. Really seek out the things that the Lord wants you to know and understand so you can please him. Then the Lord ain't going to allow you to fall into the ways of false prophets. The Lord ain't going to allow you to be deceived by, the deceitful, right? The Lord said the deceived and the deceiver are his, right? So if you're being deceived, ultimately it's because the Lord wants you to be deceived, because maybe you might not be on the level of sincerity that the Lord wants you to be on, right? Maybe it's just been preordained from the beginning that you are meant to be deceived. Maybe you're only being deceived for a season just so you can come to the revelation that you're being deceived, and now you got to make sure you go out of the way to be circumspect so you don't be deceived again, right? Let's go over Sirach 6 real quick, right? Where I want to start. Verse 32, right? It says, my son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught, and if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent, right? So you gotta want to learn, right? You gotta want to be taught, right? You gotta make it your prerogative to actually say, all right, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna take these notes. Okay, this man is teaching me X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna analyze what he bringing forth. Then I'm gonna go back over it, right? I'm gonna go back over it for myself, see if it makes sense, see if it click, right? I'm gonna, ask other brothers that I know that are more studied than I am, more well versed than I am. They may be more seasoned in this walk than I am. And okay, if I heard this from somebody, let me run it back to somebody that I know wouldn't lead me astray. Somebody that I know does have my best interest at heart, right? Because especially if you're knowing this thing, you want to make sure those around you can guide you to the proper answers, right? Through the Spirit. It says, verse 33, it says, if thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding, and if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise. Right, so it comes down to the willingness to be attentive, the willingness to soak up the information being brought forth unto you, the willingness to gain the understanding, the willingness to humble down and accept the fact that somebody might know something better than you, and you're willing to take that knowledge that they have so you can grow from it. Right, verse 34, it says, stand in the multitude of the elders and cleave unto him that is wise. Right, so if you see somebody that's wise, it would really be a foolish thing for you to be like, oh yeah, I know that brother, I know the Lord dealing with that brother. Every time I hear him teach, or every time he bring out a lesson, or I watch him on YouTube, right, he always bringing out something that's edifying. He always bringing out something that make my spirit feel better. He always bringing out something, that's valid. And when I go to the scriptures, I see those things. When I watch his lessons, he's going to the scriptures, and all he's doing is, reading thus saith the Lord. Right, it would be foolish to cast that man's wisdom and understanding behind you because your lack of trust, right? And don't get me wrong, you're not supposed to put your trust in man. You're not supposed to put your confidence in man, right? But you're also supposed to put your trust in the Lord and understand that the Lord set up certain men as his vessels to minister unto his saints, right? Verse 35, it says, be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. right? Be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee, right? So if you know, you're amongst brothers and they having, scriptural conversations, holy conversations, right? And you may not know exactly what's going on for real, but even just being a fly on the wall in those moments, right? Where they talking about something that you don't have any real understanding on, right? At least you can soak up a little bit, get bits by bits. If the floor or the forum or the time presents itself for you to ask questions, so you can gain a little bit of understanding. And brothers is willing to, you know, help you gain that understanding in the midst of the conversation. Ask those questions, right? When you find somebody that's great at a task or a craft that you want to be great at, you're supposed to walk in their footsteps. You're supposed to be stuck at the hip with them, right? If I want to be the best cornerback in the league, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna learn everything I can from the veteran quarterbacks that's in my locker room. I'm gonna reach out to other quarterbacks, across the league, see what little tips that work for them. I'm gonna go look back at the greats, the legends. Hey, I'm gonna go check out and see if I can get in contact with Deion Sanders, because that's prime time, right? Greatest cornerback to ever touch a field. If I can't get in touch with prime time, I'm gonna try to get in contact with Revis. If I can't get in touch with Revis, I'm gonna try to get in contact with, whoever else is the next best at that position, right? But that's because they have that experience. That's because they have been there. They've learned those things. They have come to, a level of, I don't want to say, they have come to a level of dominance when it comes to dealing with that particular field, right? And we got to be the same way with these scriptures. We got to be willing to go to those that are greater than us in the scriptures, those that have more understanding than us, those that have, put their boots on the ground longer than us, those that have been feeding the flock longer than us, right? And that shows a part of humility, right? The willingness to put yourself in the student seat rather than to always try to be the teacher, right? And hey, I even catch myself in those moments sometimes where it's like, well, I don't want to come off as can't nobody tell me nothing. I don't want to come off as I know everything, right? So a lot of times I sit back and I just let brothers expound on what they expounding on. If my 2 cents is needed, I'll put my 2 cents in there, right? As a matter of fact, what is that? Really quick, that'll be amongst great men. So like it, bear with me. I know it's a Sirach. Here we go. Sirach 32 and 9. I'm gonna start at verse 8. I'm gonna start at verse 7. So like it says, "Speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked." Right. So if you're amongst those that have more understanding, wisdom, right? Those that are elders, or just even more seasoned, right? You don't wanna be talking all the time, right? You can't learn by talking, right? People always use the Tupac quote. You got two eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth for a reason, right? We gotta learn to be observant, right? It says, "Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words." So when you do speak, make sure you get to the point. Don't be long-winded, right? I can't stand being long-winded. Even when I'm doing these lessons, I don't like to be long-winded in my explanations or in my, testimonies, or, just breaking down the verses, right? I don't care to be long-winded, but I like to get to the point and make it plain, right? It says, "Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue," right? Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. So even if you do know something, it's not always necessary for you to chime in, because somebody next to you might know the same thing. Everybody around you might know the same thing. It might not be necessary, right? It says, Verse 9, if thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them, and when ancient men are in place, use not many words, right? Now the main focus is really going when you talking, like when you're amongst kings or princes or, government officials, right? You don't want to overstep boundaries when you're just a plain man sitting at a table of, elites, so to speak, right? But on the spiritual fold, it's also going into those of understanding, right? The scriptures tell us there's no man greater than a man that fear the Lord, right? So how much more elite is a man that fear the Lord than, some boss or banker you got at a job, whatever the case is, right? But you don't want to make yourself equal with those that, they've been in this walk for 40 years. I'm not gonna go out of my way and say I'm equal to Elder Apostle Tahar, right? Man, I've been boots on the ground 40 plus years. Hey, he been doing this thing long before I was born, right? I'm not gonna go out of my way and say, hey, I'm greater than, Priest of Bach, right? I'm not gonna go out of the way and say I'm greater than any brother that done been having their boots on the ground longer than I could even know the name of the Lord, right? That would be foolish of me, right? So when I'm amongst those men, what is my place to do? Sit back, observe, ask questions if it's, permissible at the time, right? And just soak up that wisdom, right? Even in the world, growing up as a kid, right? I used to always love being around the old folks and kind of just listening to the stories they tell, kind of just pick them on game that they was spitting, right? Every once in a while you get somebody, you don't get about here, this grown folks' business. But if that wasn't the case, I'm gonna sit there, I'm gonna be quiet, and I'm gonna be so into the words that they bringing out that I feel like I'm there every moment that they speaking, right? And that's kind of how you want to be when, the elders or, learned men are bringing out the scriptures, right? You want to be attentive to it. You want to make sure you immersed or submersed into it, right? Let me go to this real quick. Classic. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, and verse 9. It says, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk, and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, right? So the only people that's really going to get knowledge is those that's weaned from the milk, right? Those that understand the basics, those that, they've been coddled enough to the point where, okay, now you can go off and you can do your own thing, so to speak, right? I don't gotta have you ain't gotta be up on your mama titty all the time. Now you can go sit at the table, get you a fork and a knife, and cut you up some food, right? You don't gotta be held or forced to feed. You know what I'm saying? Right? Because it's gonna come a time where we want to be teachers, right? That's the whole point of us being in this thing. As long as we're here on this planet, right? As long as as long as the Lord ain't come back and crack that sky and beam us up in them chariots, right? Drop us off back in our homeland. As long as we still in captivity, our number one obligation is to be making sure that we're glorifying the Heavenly Father's name throughout the earth. And we can only do that by teaching his word, right? So eventually we're going to have to come and be teachers, right? It's the book of Hebrews chapter 5 verse 12. It says, for when the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, right? The first principles of the oracles of God, right? The basics, right? A little bit of wisdom here, but, the law, right? The statutes and commandments, right? Who you are, where you come from, right? Basic prophecies, right? It's a lot that can be considered milk in the scriptures, right? So we gotta be humble enough to say, okay, I want to teach now. Now I gotta go back and I gotta I need that nourishment, right? I may know something. I may have came across this and this and that, and got a little bit of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, but I could gain more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from those that have more than me, right? And it's a humble thing to admit when somebody, knows more than you, because everybody want to feel like they know something. It's it says, for when the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat. Right, so we need this milk. Honestly, everybody needs this milk at all times. Right, you can get weaned off the milk, but every once in a while you got to go back to the basics, brush up on the basics. You can't forget about you know can't forget about where you come from. You can't forget about the foundation or where it all started. Right, it says, verse 13, for everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Right, so that strong meat belongs to those that have been studied for a while, right? Those that have been in this thing, and those that, continually grow through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, because they've had the nourishment from the milk. Salakia. Salakia, family. Where was I? Oh, right. So, it's okay to be taught, though. That's the main point. It's okay to be taught, because we're not gonna learn everything on our own. That's just the reality of it, right? As much as we all want to, we're not gonna learn everything on our own. And you'll have those people that say, "Well, the Spirit gonna teach me, the Lord gonna teach me." Yeah, that's true. It's honestly true, but it's not gonna come down to whisper in your ear, right? It's gonna use those around you as vessels, right? It's the book of Amos, chapter 3, and verse 7. It says, surely Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, right? So the mysteries, the secrets, right? All of those things that you want understanding of, that you may not be able to comprehend, the Lord is the one that's going to reveal them to his servants. That way they may teach you, right? Because we don't live in the times right now where the Lord is dealing with us on a level to where he's going to come down and, give us visions and dreams like he did Ezra and Ezekiel and Isaiah, right? The Lord is not dealing with us on that level right now, right? And I me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but I know on a high level, on a majority scale, the Lord is not dealing with most of us on that level, right? So I'm going to go Ephesians chapter 3, and I'm going to just start from the top, right? It says, for this cause I, Paul, a prisoner of Mashiach Yahushua, for you Gentiles, if ye have heard of the dispensation of grace of the Most High, which is given me to you word, how that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words. Right, so Paul received his revelation straight from Yahushua, right? We're not on Paul's level, right? I could never say I'm on Paul's level, because the Lord ain't dealing with me how he was dealing with Paul, right? And that's just me humbly saying that. That's a fact. The Lord's not dealing with me the way he was dealing with Paul. It says, whereby when ye read, ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Mashiach. It says, which in other ages was not made known unto the sons of men, as it is now revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit. So yeah, it is the Spirit that's revealing these things. It is the Spirit that's teaching us, right? Yahushua even let us know he sent a comforter unto us to teach us all things, right? That Holy Spirit was sent to us to teach us all things. But it's some things that are being taught to us by the Spirit through men that men before them didn't have, right? Before Elder Apostle Tahar and, Zabak and all the elders, in Israel today, before they got this knowledge, it was only a handful of men that had that knowledge. And they didn't have the same level of understanding that, the men have now, right? Even the scriptures, matter of fact, let me grab that. right? Because some people think it's far-fetched and crazy to say, well, those that come after, they gain more knowledge or they have more understanding, right? But the scriptures, even David said, "Hey, I have more knowledge because I study the precepts." Right? Where is that? Is that 100 or is that 99? Bear with me. Yeah, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 99. It says, "I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the ancients because I keep thy precepts." Right? And even David is acknowledging he had teachers, right? He got more understanding than the teachers, but he had to take what they got. He had to take what they gave him and he had to expound on it. He had to build on it. He had to take that, let them build him up through what they had, and use what they gave him to grow further. And in that way, once he grew further, what he do? He passed down that wisdom to Solomon, right? The Lord gave Solomon wisdom, but a lot of that wisdom came from David, right? When you read Proverbs, a lot of times is referring to how Solomon gave his son wisdom, David gave him wisdom, right? So those before us, they have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that they can give unto us, right? And ultimately, we got to be discerners, right? Discerners of the spirits, so we may know what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is false, right? Let me go to Acts chapter 8. And 26, right? This is the book of Acts, chapter 8, verse 26. It says, "And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert." It says, "And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had charge of all her treasure, had come to Jerusalem for to worship." Right? And that's letting you know that this is a Israelite foreigner from Ethiopia, right? Because he was coming down to worship for the feast, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was Passover at this time. But it says verse 28. It says, "Was returning and sitting in the chariot, read Isaiah the prophet." Right? So you got this Ethiopian Jew. He's sitting down. He's reading Isaiah. Right? It says, "Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran thither to him, and heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, Understandest thou what thou readest?" So Philip asked the Ethiopian Jew, he said, "Hey, do you get what's going on? Like, you really get what's going on, or is you lost? Like, you know what you're reading?" And what did he say? And verse 31, he said, "How can I, except some man should guide me?" Right? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. Right? So even the eunuch understood, hey, I'm not going to understand this unless somebody put me on. Right? Like, I'm reading this and yeah, I know what the words say, but as far as what's going on, what it's really talking about, what's the message behind it, I have no clue. Right? How can I understand this unless somebody guide me through this, unless somebody point me in the right direction, right? And that's ultimately what the men of the Lord are, right? We're vessels, we're what do you want? Beacons, right? I would say we're beacons with a B, right? You got like you got on a runway, right? A plane only gonna know where to land if they see those lights. If those lights wasn't there, it wouldn't know to land, right? As far as in the nighttime, right? But